Hello and good evening. I would like to welcome you all to this evening's licensing subcommittee. I would like to read out the protocols for remote hearings. Only speak when invited to do so by the chair. If you wish to speak, please raise your hand and direct all communication via the chair. Please ensure that your mics are muted when you are not speaking. When speaking, please be succinct and do not exceed the allocated timeframes. If referring to any written submissions, please be specific. Any new evidence can only be submitted at the discretion of the chair and at the agreement of all parties. If you are having any technical difficulties, please use the chat function to alert the meeting. Please do not use the chat function for putting formal questions to the subcommittee or for comments. Any persistent disruptive behaviour will result in removal from the meeting. Once this application has been considered, you will be asked to log out of the hearing. Please do so promptly so that councillors will have the opportunity to deliberate and make a decision. Each party will be notified of the decisions within 5 working days. However, if you contact the licence service tomorrow, you will be given a skeleton decision. Thank you very much. At this point in proceedings, I would like to hand over to members for them to elect a chair.
Can I propose Councillor Smythe, please, as a chair? Smith, sorry.
Oh, that's right. Thank you very much. Lucy, you happy with that?
Yep.
Fantastic. Great. Well, welcome everyone to tonight's licensing subcommittee A. Tuesday, the 28th of March. There's an agenda on the inside of the pack. If you've got a physical one, if you're online, it should be the same. Before we begin, I'd just like to go around the room, the virtual space, if you like, and just introduce ourselves. I'm Councillor Smith, Chair of Licensing and also a Councillor in Stoke Newington Ward. Councillor Root.
Hi, I'm Penny Roots, Councillor for Victoria Ward.
And Loser.
I'm Councillor Goldberg, Councillor for the Casement Wards.
Thank you. And then we have, I think it's PC Griggs.
Good evening, Chair. Yeah, PC Amanda Griggs here from Police Licensing.
Yeah, welcome, Amanda. And then we have Suba.
I'm Subhash Reid. I'm our Principal Licensing Officer. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Amanda.
Hello, good evening. I'm Amanda North from Legal Services, supporting members this evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And you've heard from Natalie. Natalie's our Governance Officer. Thank you, Natalie, for all you do. And we have Mario on the call, who's the IT expert. And again, thanks to you, Mario, for everything you do technically as well. Also on the call, I can see Hassan. Do you just want to introduce yourself very briefly, Hassan?
Hi, so I'm one of the people that has been objecting to this licensing.
Okay, thank you, Hassan. And then there's a name that says Robert on the screen.
I might assume it's me, as I'm Robert, but it might not be me. Robert Sutherland. I'm representing the applicant. I have with me, and you can see just to my my left, right, as you look at it, Ishmael Toprak, who's the applicant, and out of screen, there is his business associate who's also assisting me with any translation, Mr. Kesey.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And then we have Jim.
Yes, good evening, Chair. I'm a licensing consultant from Complete Licensing, and I have made a report about this premises.
Okay. Who will be speaking on behalf of the applicant?
Mr. Sutherland.
Myself, and I'll rely on some evidence from Mr. Solers.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, everyone, for that.
Yeah, there's also a telephone number.
Oh, yes. That would be C3.
Mr. Chairman?
C3.
Yeah, I'd be grateful if I could actually just make a very quick point of order, if I may.
Yes, please.
Well, I didn't want to bring this up, but I have to, because just to make things clear, this hearing, as you know, was adjourned previously, And the issue came up. I brought up the issue of the fact that the applicant had made a last-minute submission of materials within 24 hours of that previous hearing meeting. Your legal representative started reading me chapter and verse about the, out of whatever authority she had for all that, and I accept that obviously that's the authority. And the applicant rather patronisingly just repeated that at me. But I have to point out that the issue is one of fairness. And if the applicant is, or if this applicant or any other applicant is going to release, material before a hearing, it's only fair that parties such as myself will have time to have a look at it. And I don't think within 24 hours, that used to be the policy of the licensing committee, to make sure that it was at least 24 hours before that was allowed. That was the period that had been agreed. And I brought this up last time, and we had a little bit of a disagreement about it. The reason I bring it up today is obviously it's not so much an issue today, because obviously no new material has been released before this hearing. But I actually made a submission after the report was made. It was before the 24-hour time, and that material is not included in the things that you've got in front of you. So I just need to say I did actually make a submission myself, but you don't have it.
Okay, but the licensing department are aware they are aware that you have made a representation, because you're on my documents that I can see in front of me.
Okay, well, I haven't seen that. I don't know whether or not that's been circulated or not. All I'm saying to you is, if for this meeting, I've not seen it circulated. It wasn't in the report. It wasn't in the things I received this afternoon. So
okay. So, would you want to just clarify that position?
Sorry, Chair. I'm just provided the information which was given to me. I might have to double check with the case officer. So
okay, well, I'll allow you to do that. Well, apologies, C3. I presume you want me to refer to you as C3. Is that okay?
I'll be grateful. Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, that's fine. Well, look, thank you for the feedback. I'm sure it will be noted. Councillor Root.
Sorry, just for clarity, we do have in the pack a letter from C3. Is that not the submission that?
Yeah, it should be. Yeah. Yeah, it should be.
Are you talking about a different submission, sir?
I'm not talking about the original written representation I made before the statutory deadline for the application. I'm talking about something that I submitted after the report was issued for the first meeting, but before 24 hours before the first meeting.
Okay. And that you would like to have seen included just as the applicant's consultant's documentation has been sent to us. You'd have liked that sent to us as well, is that right?
Well, I think it's important if there's going to be any issue about whether or not I've made this particular representation. And of course, all members, you should have all the materials that have been submitted before this meeting, obviously.
Well, we've got C3. Okay. We've got C3 there. You probably can't see that because you're not on a visual call, but there is C3. The date of the submission for this was the 17th of January, 23. Does that ring a bell? Is that...
What the gentleman's saying is that he submitted something just before the previous hearing, which has not been included in the pack here. So we don't know what it is. I guess the pertinent question is there anything really important in that submission that we don't have access to in the documents that we've got? Because you're here, so you do have the opportunity to tell us what was in there that we don't.
Well, I just made reference to the fact that I had a oral conversation with the applicant about that A-board sign. So that was a previous written representation I'd previously made. So I just wanted to make that point, and it's only fair that I did that.
Okay.
Okay, great. Okay, well let's try and get that all sorted out for the next one. And apologies again for that C3. Okay, we've done the introduction, so let's just move on with the agenda now. So agenda item 1 is the election of chair. That's been done. Agenda item 2, apology for absence. So apologies have been received from Councillor Sizer, and I am filling in for her this evening. Agenda item 3, declarations of interest. Do members have any declarations of interest?
No, I don't. No.
No.
Fantastic, thank you very much. Agenda item 4, minutes of the previous meeting. There are no minutes for consideration this evening. Agenda item 5 is just to outline the hearing procedure, which I'll just run through very quickly. It works in steps, ultimately. It's quite straightforward. Step 1 is the appointment of chair. Step 2, the principal licensing officer will outline the report. Step 3, these are 5 minutes, by the way. Step 3, the applicant will present their case in support of their application. We will then, step 4, invite responsible authorities, in this case the police, to come in with their objections. And then step 5 is other persons. And this evening we have C2 and C3. C1 is not in attendance, but has requested that it be noted that the objections submitted still stand in every respect. And they believe that none of the measures proposed by the premises would mitigate against the ASB that results after patrons leave the premises. So that still stands. So that is, and then we go into a discussion phase over 15 minutes, closing remarks, step 7, final clarification, step 8, and then we'll ask people to leave and we'll go off and deliberate. And as Natalie said, you will hear by phone tomorrow within 5 working days in a written fashion. So I would like to call the acting principal licensing officer to outline the report, please.
Thank you, Chair. So the item we are going to consider this evening is for a premises license under Section 17 of the Licensing Act 2003 for German Doner Kebab, 127 Kingsland High Street. The applicant is seeking for late night refreshment from 2300 to 30 past midnight, Sunday to Wednesday, from 2300 to 2:30 a.m. Thursday, and from 2300 to 3:30 a.m. Friday and Saturday. At the licensing subcommittee hearing on the 14th of Feb 2023, the decision was made to attend the hearing due to the allegations involving the basement premises operating as an illegal gambling activities, allowing police and licensing to investigate. We have received additional information from the police in regards to this investigation, and this document has been circulated. Representation still remains from the police and other persons. And I have nothing else to add. Just to add members, I managed to find the additional information from C3 and it has been forwarded to you through email.
Oh, fantastic. Could I ask one of the members to just take control of that one? Just read it as I'm chairing. I'm going to find it difficult to read all that. But if someone, I don't know, Councillor Root or Councillor Goldberg, if you want to just have a quick read of that. Robert, Mr. Sullivan, is it? Sutherland.
Sutherland, sir. Thank you, Councillor. Sorry, I've not seen, or I don't think I've seen this additional document, and it is something which I would like to see before the committee sits.
No, that's fair enough. Subi, do you have?
I'm going to do it.
You've got the details. Fantastic. Thank you for raising that, Mr. Sutherland. It's a very important point. Okay. Where were we? Okay, so we've done step 2. So now step 3. So I would like to invite the applicant, please. In this case, it would be Mr. Sutherland, with the help possibly of the expert, Jim. So I'll leave that up to you, Mr. Sutherland, if you want to call Jim in on particular points, and just to make it clear how much you want us to hear from Jim in general, if that makes sense. So I'm going to set the old stopwatch. Off you go.
Thank you, sir. I'm going to hand really straight over to Jim to give you his expert thoughts in relation to his observations at the premises, and then I will tie up some loose ends. And then I'm sure there'll be lots of questions which I'll be able to deal with. Thanks, Mr. Sullivan.
Okay.
Yeah, just checking you can hear me.
Yep.
Excellent. I visited this premises on the 10th of February first of all, I arrived about 9:30 in the evening and just had a general stroll around the streets to see what was going on. You're all very familiar, I know, with the area, so I'm not going to patronize you by describing all the different shops and what have you. Basically, I went up to the German kebab shop at about 10 o'clock at night, and just to make things clear, there is no connection between this one and another German kebab shop further south in the street. You should have had my report in the bundle, but I'll just basically go through. The premises was very clean and tidy outside. There was an attendant outside who was cleaning the area when that's it. Yeah. So just I'll praise you the perhaps the more salient points. It was very clean outside. It was very clean inside. The staff were all clean and tidy, and were clearly an efficient team who were used to working together. There's seating inside, and people were using the seating. I went downstairs into the basement because I was aware that there was some suggestions of improper or illegal activity in the basement. But the only basement for this premises is a dry store with cans of food, a walk-in fridge, some shelving with other dry stores, and a staff toilet, which was also immaculately clean. There was no loud music in the premises. Indeed, music from adjacent premises could be heard through the walls in this one, but only very, very, very distantly, and wasn't causing disturbance to anybody. Throughout the whole night that I was there, at no time did I see anybody blocking the pavement outside, although walking up and down Kingston High Street, there was clearly many other premises that used the pavement for their patrons to queue up, some using pens, some not using pens. Sometimes people were having to walk into the road because even though there were stewards or what have you, and the pavements are nice and wide there, that people were still in the roads. But this wasn't the case at this premises. There is a bus stop outside, and at one stage in the night, a group of boisterous men came and stood at the bus stop and were talking in loud voices, and were there for about 15 minutes, but they hadn't come from and then left. They haven't come from the kebab shop, and they certainly didn't go into it. So they stopped at the bus stop for about 15 minutes and then made their way away. The premises, as well as selling food, provides cold drinks and things like that. There's a fridge just inside the door, and people who were walking by regularly popped in and just got a can of water or a can of pop, which seemed to me to be very reasonably priced, and allowed them to rehydrate or just have a drink on their way home.
Mr. Solos, sorry, can I just interrupt? I'm conscious of the fact that we've only got 5 minutes, so it may be appropriate.
You're currently on 4. You're currently on 4.
If I pick up on the last minute, then, sir, that would seem appropriate. I'm sure, as I say, there'll be conditions. So the next part, really, I would draw the committee's attention to the number of conditions which are put forward, the 12 additional conditions as to how the premises will operate. And also there's a nighttime management plan. If it was felt appropriate to incorporate that nighttime management plan as a condition, it may be done so. There is no difficulty with that. In respect of the representations, dealing first of all with C2, the only document I've got in relation to C2 refers to breaches of the licensing hours and also the illegal basement. The police deal with that in their additional report. I think on the last occasion there was also comment about allegations that a previous business partner, associate of the applicant, had made threats, and you've seen in the police report how they've dealt with that and what they say about those allegations. In relation to C3 and the objections in relation to C3, I have no idea where C3 lives, if indeed he does live in the area, as he is anonymous. in respect of this particular location, I say that the conditions and the management plan address the issues. Having a premises which is open, which allows people to eat and to drink non-alcoholic beverages in a pleasant environment is encouraging and is good for the area, is not negative. It allows the people to sober up if necessary, or become more sober if they've had things to alcoholic beverages. Sir, I'm sure that's my 5 minutes, so I shall finish there.
Yeah, thank you very much. That was 6 minutes and 10 seconds, so it's pretty good.
Sorry, sir.
So that's great. Members, just at this point, do you have any points you want to raise before the discussion? Any just small points you'd like to raise now, or should we just move on?
I think we should move on at this point, personally.
Yeah. Councillor Goldberg, happy with that? Yeah.
Sorry, I tried to unmute and I turned my camera off. Yes, no, happy with that. We can continue.
Fantastic. Great. Okay, so at this point, I would like to invite responsible authorities, in this case, PC Griggs, to come in with your 5 minutes, PC Griggs. And there's a few points, obviously, you will be raising, but I just want to reinforce some of them. The fact that you, in your submission, you said you kind of wanted any unwanted license surrendered because their current license has alcohol and late night refreshment until 23:40 Sunday to Thursday and 00:40 Friday to Saturday. That's the first point. Are you satisfied that the conditions or the robust measures, as you referred to in your representation, have been successfully kind of met, if you like? You also wanted to know how the smokers would be managed. Has that been addressed for you? And you also wanted the removal of non-standard hours as well. There's one further point. Sorry, I know I'm throwing a lot at you here. There's one further point about your submission, which doesn't correspond well with condition 7 in the additional documents in regards to the timings of when people are in the venue. And you said, I'm just going to find your submission here, 1 second. The inside seating will now not be used after 2300, and the basement will not be utilized at all. So I just want clarification on that particular point. That doesn't fit well with condition 7 in the pack or the additional information. This is something we can go into in the discussion, but I just wanted to kind of flag it now, because condition 7 says on Fridays and Saturdays there should be no more than 15 patrons at any one time seated at tables on the ground floor consuming food between 2300 hours and 2:30. So I presume that's gone. So just clarification on that. And then what was the other one? There was one final point. Oh yeah, the issue about the basement and the lease. Just a little bit of detail on that. And are you satisfied that that basement will definitely be out of action altogether? So sorry to give you all that. I was just sort of reminding you really of what you've already written. Okay, thank you.
That's okay, Chair. No problem at all. Yes, so I will start with the inside seating area bit. My initial representations were put in before the venue started operating tens and put their nighttime management plan into operation. And it was discovered whilst doing that, they found it easier to control 15 people sitting inside, and it was easier to control people that way than having people coming in and out constantly. So they tried the tens like that and they operated. So I was quite happy with how they have operated on those temporary event notices and how that's worked, and how they have a customer attendant. So the customer side of the venue, it's not behind the counter, so they've got somebody there managing people inside, so they can manage anybody queuing outside or stop people queuing outside and manage the numbers inside.
Are you saying after 2300 hours? Are you referring to after?
So what the conditions that they've been proposed since, so about having them seated inside to 2:30, I think, wasn't it? So the condition works better than me saying not having them in there, if that makes sense. So it's actually worked well keeping them in there because they're more controlled.
Okay, that makes.
And they've had somebody say that the customer side of the venue to help control people there. So it has worked better.
Okay. So I think, Amanda, we need to note the fact that you've kind of like evolved
So,
your position. So what's presented in the pack has changed in that regard, yeah?
So yes, so that was, so these were the representations obviously prior to the last hearing.
Okay.
What the applicant has done and the measures and everything that they've submitted in their report, I've agreed. So the conditions with them, I've welcomed the slight reduction in hours that they've put forward, because originally it was 4 o'clock, I believe, and they've come back slightly at the weekend and on the Thursday. And saying they've been running the temporary event notices for about six weekends, I believe, I think, and they've got another weekend coming, and we've not had an issue regarding them at all. So I'm much happier with the measures they've put in place and what they've been doing to control that, and I'm quite satisfied at the moment with how they've been doing that. With regards the basement and the lease, the basement is a completely separate. The basement that everyone's been alluding to is a completely separate venue. So there's a separate door at the front that goes down to what can only be described as a social club. There was no evidence of any type of licensable activity going on. There was certainly no cash changing hands. There was people drinking cards and drinking Turkish tea. There was no money changing hands. There was no obvious notebooks noting down money that would then be changed hands later. There were a couple of beers in the fridge, but there was no till of any sort. There was no cash box. There was no card payment machine or anything like that. So there was, again, no way, and again, no notebook for people to note down what they'd had. The payment could be taken later. It was, for all intents and purposes, some gentlemen gathered playing cards and drinking Turkish tea. Nothing further than that. It is completely separate and isn't access. You can't get to Mr. Toprak's section of it. It is just the front part of the basement. Mr. Toprak then has control, and I've seen a copy of his lease and the plan, that's floor plan for the lease, that covers his ground floor and then a small section at the rear of the basement. His lease does not cover the front bit of the basement where this social gathering, this social club is. So I'm quite happy and satisfied that his part of the lease does not control that at all, and he isn't at the moment in control of that. Where else were we? I can't remember.
The surrender of the license, robust measures, and non-standard hours, and smokers.
So again, with the customer attendant at the front, keeping an eye on any smokers and stuff, it seems to be working. I'd say we've certainly not had any reports of any issues come to us. There's not been anything happening while they've been having their temporary event notices. So again, I'm quite happy with the measures they've put in place so far to keep everything under control there. And yeah, we would ask that the current license is surrendered upon grant of, if they're happy with the grant of this one, but there's only one license there, one way or the other.
Yeah.
And I think we'd agreed about non-standard hours. I think Robert can probably confirm that, but I think we'd agreed that they'd be removed from the application.
Yeah, Mr. Sutherland, you just want to quickly confirm that?
So I can, and I was also going to confirm condition 12, sir, is the one which deals with the surrender of the current license.
Yeah. Let me just have a quick look at that. Carry on, Amanda. Yeah, got it. Brilliant. Yeah,
I think I'm about done, Chair. And so yeah, I'm much happier with what they've proposed and the plans they've put in place.
Yeah. Do you see the attendants sort of managing the smokers outside as well?
Yeah, it's at the moment it seems to be. I was going to say, I know it's obviously the temporary event notices, so it's been on a temporary basis. But yeah, we've certainly not seen any issues over the last few weeks.
Okay, thank you for that submission, and thank you for the clarification in regards to those the new condition and the change from page 57 in the pack. That's great. So now I'd like to invite other persons, but just before we start, just to remind you all that representation should be in line with the 4 licensing objectives, and where possible, repetition should be avoided. Points made that do not relate to the licensing objectives cannot be taken into consideration when making a decision. The licensing objectives are prevention of children from harm, public safety, prevention of public nuisance, prevention of yeah, public nuisance, crime and prevention of crime and disorder, public safety, and prevention of children from harm. So C1 is not in attendance. C2, Hassan Alksu, is that right? Is that the way to say it?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, great. You've got 3 minutes, Hassan. Thank
Yeah,
you.
I would like to say thank you once again for invitation. Basically, we keep coming to the beginning of the conversation again. Since 2002, sorry, to 2022, these people have been breaching the rules of the Hackney Council. And as far as I'm aware, Mr. PC Amanda said that there was no evidence that's so far since the last hearing, but there is plenty of evidences. They've been sent to the hearing before that they were gambling. Yes, there were evidences. Yes, there were monies on the table. And yes, there were writing papers, notepads on the table, on the pictures. You can clearly see them all. Secondly, I've spoken to some of the neighbourhood today from Alvington Crescent, just the back street of the Kingsland High Road. And the people there, all the neighbourhood is gathering to make a report, they said. And I've asked them, what was this situation? And they said, the reason is that people are on that pictures in front of that property, chilling there, coming out from the cafe downstairs, are taking drugs at the back street. And now, so these are proofs, and these are the evidence which are the communities coming up with now.
Yep.
So I just wanted to make this clarified. There is lots of evidence. As you guys say, there is no evidence, but there is so many evidences, but no one takes it serious. In previous hearing in February, I have made the reports to the police that I was getting threatened by the gentleman's business partner, which is they are saying they're not now, but which they are. Clearly they are, because they are in my community and they talk. That's how I know. And I've sent in evidences from my business CCTVs, my father's business CCTVs, voice recordings, everything, all the evidences that clearly they are threatening to me to pull back, and which I will not, because I will go for this at the end. So this is the only thing that I wanted to say today. Yes, there is evidence, and yes, I have sent these previously so many times, but nobody takes it serious. Well, I can lastly say that, while I'm ending my words, is that the community, the business community in that area are talking now, okay, if these people, if they started breaching the rules since 2022 and operating with that premises license, trading license at certain times, why doesn't the supermarkets and the off license start trading? Anyhow, council doesn't do nothing, and they'll go to hearing, and we will get our papers. This is what the community started talking now, because they're saying no one's taken seriously. So these are my last words, sir.
Yep. Thank you, Sam. I'm
Thank you
sorry
very
to
much.
hear that. We do take all the issues down there very seriously, and the police do as well. I'd like to bring in Amanda. There's two Amandas on the call, but I'd like to bring in PC Griggs first, Amanda, if you don't mind, because she had her hand up first. PC Griggs, if you want to address some of those issues that Hassan's just raised.
Yep, of course. Just saying, on the occasions we've been down there, there hasn't been. I'm not saying there hasn't been in the past. However, the basement has got nothing to do with the ground floor. It is not owned by the same people at the moment. The lease is not the same. Until we do, I mean, finding out who owns these basements and stuff can take years to discover. So unless you've got paperwork that shows who owns the ground floor, the basement lease, at the moment, the only information we've got, and the information that we've got in front of us, is that this Mr. Toprack has got the lease for the ground floor and a small part of the basement at the back. We've got nothing to go on at the front.
Okay, Hassan, quickly, just come in for a second.
Yes, sir. Then I would like to ask then, who is the responsible person doing illegal activities in this area? While it's counted as a special policy area, so it's been cleaned out through the previously club and small bars, just to keep the area nice and peaceful place.
It's
So
something we'll keep an eye. It's something we'll keep an eye on and keep looking at.
No, I did make my application. When I made my content, I've clarified that these people, it was them. What was the reason them coming up to me and threatening me then? I've made the report to the police station, and the morning when I went home, I've received a message my case was closed without even getting to speak to somebody. And you turned, sorry, Matt, I didn't want to say you. As a PC, you turned around and said that, oh, your case is closed. Yeah, but no one haven't spoken to me. I've said this in the last hearing as well.
I didn't investigate it. It's got nothing. What happened with your investigation into the allegation you've made has got nothing to do with me. Somebody would have looked at it and decided what to do and gone through. Their sergeant would have made the same, would have made a decision with them and agreed with it. Because it isn't just the PC that would have done that or a DC. It would have had to go to their sergeant to look at whether there's enough evidence or insufficient evidence to investigate further or close it. So it wouldn't have just been me. You should have the crime number, and if you want to make a complaint about what's happened with it, then that's up to you. But I say I would have had nothing. I've had nothing to do with that at all. I've just looked up and searched for the actual crime report and told you what was written on it, basically. So
Yeah,
if you do need to speak to somebody, I'd go to the police station and find out what's going on. But I can't do anything about that myself.
Okay. Also, as an evidence, you can take an information through High Street. The wardens that work during night period, they've got all the footages with the CCTVs when they walked in. Secondly, when they were breaching the rules and operating without their operation hours. Thirdly, with so many people in front of the door and smoking. But these are my last words.
So
Thank you again.
this is the basement. We're not talking about the basement, so I think we need to sort of say we're talking about the ground floor. This isn't the basement. We're talking about the ground floor. We're not talking about the basement for this
people,
application.
They were at the premises in front of the door. So many people.
Yeah. Okay. There's a bit of a sort of an anomaly here, Hassan. Amanda, I'll bring you in. Not PC Griggs, the other Amanda.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Chair, I think we need to make it clear to Ms. Axie, we're not quite sure what relevance this is going to have to the 4 licensing objectives and to this particular application. I mean, I think these issues are not the ones that we need to consider as part of this application.
Thank you, Amanda. Mr. Sutherland.
What I want to see. Sir, I think it's been covered by Ms. North. I won't add any more. Thank you.
Yeah. I think the issue there, Hassan, for everyone is the fact that this basement area is leased by someone else. And obviously the evidence that you're talking about is not actually in front of us. And the police hasn't presented that either. So we're kind of in a difficult situation. Hassan, come in.
Judge, I've sent enough evidences since 2022 March.
About the basement, but this
No,
particular
not about the basement, at the shop itself. They were operating without trading license, certain refreshment licenses.
Yeah.
For so long periods.
Yeah.
Till end of summer.
But it's not in that evidence is not in front of us today.
I've had it in my emails, and this stuff came in the first hearing as well. I believe it was around July time, if I'm not wrong. I've provided all the evidences, and all the evidences were in the documents. Same address, same people. What changed today?
Councillor Root, I believe that you were on the last ones. Do you recall any such evidence that Hassan's talking about on those?
I don't particularly recall anything about the smoking outside or anything like that we haven't already seen with the documents that we've got. So no, I don't recall anything other than, I mean, there was a lot of debate about the basement area, which is partly why we adjourned to sort out who the basement belonged to. There was some discussion about an alleged threat, which again was taken away for the police to look into that, and there's no further action on that. So I'm not aware of anything else that we're not considering here today.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Hassan, come back again briefly.
Sorry, last one word. If you require any type of previous evidence, I can provide all sorts of pictures, because I've basically council workers came up to the shop when we made the complaint so many times, and when they spoke to me, that made me download an application to my phone, take a picture with a date, time, and address on. They're the evidence that we have sent. And since 2022, beginning of 2022, I've been taking pictures, and I have sent these. I've got all the backups. I can resend it to you whenever you guys require.
Have we seen any of that at all, Suba? Have you received any of that information from the licensing team?
Sorry, Chair. I mean, it's talking about the hearing which happened in July. So whatever the information, July last year, but that application was refused. Whatever we received in January, except for the 331, which was missed out. All the other documentations was being circulated or within the pack. Nothing else we have received outside that.
Okay, Hassan, one more time. You've got your hand up.
Chair,
And
I think we need to check on time and be aware, mindful of, you know, relevant
I am. Don't worry,
significance.
Amanda. Hassan, do you have anything else to say? Okay, great. Amanda, you had your hand up. Was that you just wanted to say that? Yeah. Cool. Okay. So we will move on. Thank you, Hassan, for that. Okay, so we'll move on to C3.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just going to add quickly to that the widespread breaches of regulations from local traders, including serious licensing breaches, are pretty much rife in the area. I can only add to the I've seen them. They certainly seem to be frequenting this place. The people that the basement, the people that work at the German Donner. And as you've heard, they were operating without a license. That's part of the reason why the previous application was refused. Councillor Smith, you weren't at the last hearing, so I'm going to have to briefly just retell the story of my A-board encounter with the operators of this premise.
Please do.
Essentially, after several passes of this premises, they had this A-board constantly outside there. It's very narrow between the bus stop and the front of the premises, and this A-board was on the public pavement. And as I was passing one day, I asked the guy there, what's this doing here? It shouldn't be here. He got very aggressive with me. He told me that it's all right there, and then he started ruthlessly questioning me about where I lived. And it was very aggressive. So I want to say any sort of aggression there, I've certainly experienced it from the operators of this premises. Moving on from that, on the rest of the application, I'll just refer you to LP1 and the Get Drunk and Have a Kebab ecosystem, and how it doesn't really add to the diversity of the area. The application couldn't be clearer in its intent. I mean, especially clearing the tables and chairs and having this sort of open floor melee situation. I can't quite work out whether there are any toilets in or not provided. I personally, having experienced all this, I never think 10s are never indicative of a post-licensed operation. I wouldn't expect an issue from any premises that's applying for a license. They're not that stupid. The consultant there doesn't know where I live. Well, he's not really doing his job properly. He should have found out. And he's entitled to do that. I've lived here 35 years. I'm not a casual visitor. I haven't just turned up for one night and had a look around and think, oh, it's all right here. I live about 30 meters from the premises, so I really do know what I'm talking about when it comes to the area. And the police, of course, are focused on crime, and my focus really is on nuisance. Questions I would ask the applicant is what exactly do they call the outside of the premises? Does it include their smoking area outside of their licensable area? What's the capacity? You could easily read from their suggested conditions, which are completely inadequate, that there would be an unlimited capacity after they've cleared the tables and chairs. I could go through, and we're probably going to go through the conditions, but I think they're all fairly useless. I take what the applicant has said about incorporating the management plan, which is pretty much window dressing anyway. If it wasn't in the, there's this thing about an attendant, which is okay as far as it goes, but I've not heard the applicant confirm that they want to put that into the conditions. I never think signs are any use of, pretty useless anyway. Like I said, the pavement there is really narrow. You've got a bus stop, and there's plenty of scope for obstruction. And what I wrote about is crowd splitting up, which is really a worry of mine. You get people, there's a kebab shop across the road, and there's shouting at each other, and people are drunk, and the question always comes to whose customers are they anyway? Do we have a drunken person in the premises? Well, whose customer is that? Well, I think that's the kebab's customer. We also have the issue that, I mean, they haven't even got in the conditions that you can't bring alcohol onto the premises. I mean, I think it's been really poorly thought through. And there's nothing about passing trade, deliveries, littering. Well, they're gonna clean up and all of that. But finally, Mr. Chair, I know you want to move on, but the issue really for me is there's a lack of supervision. There's no visible police presence. The responsible authorities from Hackney haven't even bothered making a submission here. That just shows you how casual they are. And well, I'll leave it for there at the minute, if I may.
Yep, thank you, C3. Very comprehensive as usual. I expect nothing less.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, so we're going to move into the discussion phase now, 15 minutes. So I'd just like to open the floor to members to ask some questions, probe a little bit more, points of clarification, that kind of thing. So, Councillor Root.
Yeah, I just wanted to pick up on something that Mr. C3 said about toilets, because I notice on the applicant bundle that's come through from the consultant that there's a map of the premises and the licensable area, which doesn't include a toilet at all. The toilet would appear from this to be downstairs in the basement. So I'm just wondering, are we therefore looking at somewhere where people are going to be sitting and eating late at night, probably after drinking quite a lot, and have nowhere to relieve themselves? That does concern me, I must say. And I appreciate what Amanda Griggs has said about it actually being easier to contain people when they're inside. But, if they've been drinking beer all evening and, as I say, can't go to the loo, that can be quite tricky, I think. So I'd just like some clarification about that, because it seems to be a contradiction at the moment about the use of the basement and where the toilets are situated. The other thing I'm interested in is the customer attendant. The customer attendant who seems to be sort of busying themselves, making sure that the customers are behaving themselves and what have you. Are they SIA registered? Is it just another member of staff? I mean, it seems to me that unless they are SIA registered with all the attendant training that goes with that, this could be quite a dangerous situation for that person, because obviously people can get aggressive when they've been drinking. So I would want to ensure really that attendant person was SIA trained. Yeah. That's it from now.
Thank you very much, Councillor Root. Mr. Sutherland, do you want to come back with some answers to those points, please?
And Eugene wasn't there.
Thank you, sir. Sorry, there was I was just checking on something before responding. In relation to the WC, it's in the basement. There is access to it, and it is used and is available for use if that assists. In relation to the attendant, at this stage, following discussions with the police, it was not felt necessary to have the attendant SIA qualified. There's no, putting up to one side, there's no legal requirement, obviously, that they be SIA qualified for premises such as this, where there's no alcohol being sold. The operation that we've put in place has worked with without an SIA qualified individual. I understand exactly what Councillor Rout is saying in relation to the training. If that was felt to be important for the committee, then it is training that can be provided to the individual who would be carrying on that role. I was going to, I know Mr. Sollers saw the attendant in action, and Mr. Kesey, who's with me, has acted as attendant on occasions when he's been at the premises in order to control people and make sure that they're all in the right place and moving quickly and quietly, etc. I don't know whether I'm going to start with Mr. Kesey, whether he has anything to add to what I've said in relation to that. And then I don't know, Mr. Sollers, whether you want to add anything from your observations and your experience. Okay, I think Mr. Kesey is suggesting that, in fact, it may be best if Mr. Sollers, who observed, I think, Mr. Kesey in action, whether that would be good. Thanks, Mr. Sollers.
Yep. Hello again. Yep. When I watched, the whole situation was very, very thoroughly and professionally policed, for want of a better word. It was controlled. The place was kept clean. There was never any obstruction at all. No shouting, no bad behaviour in the premises or associated with the premises whatsoever. There were people at times standing outside the Alibaba kebab shop, but they were all eating and drinking convivially, I suppose would be the best description. There was no shouting at all by anybody. I say the only loud voices I heard were in the at the bus stop briefly. The premises, I've been in the basement. The premises are definitely nothing to do with the alleged gambling den. What else? I feel that's probably enough.
Okay.
Hopefully that deals with the question from Councillor Rouse.
Councillor Root, you've got your hand up again.
I have, yeah. Well, I suppose with regard to the toilet, if the basement isn't part of this application, I mean, I need some guidance perhaps from Amanda North on this, because, you know, if the basement is being explicitly ruled out as part of this application, which it has been in places in the documentation, then it seems to me that people can't legally use the toilet. Or you make an application in which the toilets are part of the application. I'm sorry, but, you know, it seems like you're wanting it both ways. So I just need a little bit of legal clarification really about that. If the toilets are being used and they're not part of the licensable area, where does that leave us, Amanda?
Well, they should ensure that the toilet is within the licensed area. So you are correct that it doesn't make sense how they would be going into an area which isn't part of the premises license. So because toilets and other areas within the premises are all part of the plan, and any changes to that. So, for example, on one occasion in the past, we've had someone who actually changed the location or the structure of their toilets, and as a result, they had to seek a variation to actually amend the plan. So it is actually very important that the toilets are located within the red edged area, which sets out where the licensed premises is. So it is a bit unusual for them to say that it will be in a separate location.
Well, Madam, may I just respond in this way? It may be that we're talking about the same thing, but the plan is actually setting something different out. So on the additional plan that was submitted, I think around page 5 of the applicant's bundle, there is a plan there which shows the area for licensable activity, and that's the area which is shown edged in red, and obviously that's the area where the late night refreshment is shown. Because of the issues which were raised in relation to the premises, the ground floor and the basement, I thought it was actually clearer if I specified that the licensable activity area only took place on the ground floor, because there was lots of confusion about what was happening in the basement. Now, the basement forms part of the licensed premises to the extent that it is shown on that plan. So you have obviously access down to storage areas. And
you're talking about this plan, Mr. Sutherland?
Correct, sir. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the
There's
plan.
no red lines on this that I can see.
Okay, there is
I think he's
on
talking
the,
about the other one, Gilbert, in the pack, in the
no,
original.
on the original plan, you I think have got a black and white version. If you look at the area which is on the ground floor plan, you'll see, if you look very closely, in fact, it may look as though it's a black square, black rectangle, which is around the area of the counter and the seating.
Yeah, I'm just looking for the plan. This one here.
It's the one that you held up, sir.
Oh, the other one, right?
No. If you go back to the one that you held up, and there's a on that by your yours looks different, I have to say, to my plan. No, it's different because it doesn't have the red. It doesn't have the box around it. The licensed premises are as per that plan you're holding up, Councillor Smith.
Chair, I'll forward you on a plan. I'll forward it on to you.
Yeah.
Or maybe a screen grab. Could you put it on the screen maybe for us all to see?
Mm.
Is that possible?
Suba, are you able to do screen share? I'm not very good at that, sorry.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Sutherland, just talk us through this diagram on the screen then.
So you can see on that plan, on the right-hand side, where the cursor is, in fact, there's a red rectangle.
Mm-hmm.
That you will see from the key is the area for licensable activity. So that's where the late night refreshment is supplied.
Mm-hmm.
If you could move the plan up, thank you, that's really helpful. If you go to the basement area underneath the stairs, you'll notice that there's the WC, and it's part of the licensed premises, but it's not a part of the area where we're looking to do licensable activities. And that's, I suppose, how I've distinguished it, but it is part of the plan, it's part of the licensed premises.
So I presume that the leaseholder of that basement has given you permission to use the toilet?
The lease, so I think was covered by PC Griggs. It covers part of the basement, and it covers the part of the basement that you can see shown on that plan. The contentious part of the basement, which is not part of the applicant's premises, is if you look to the right-hand side of the basement, where there's a storeroom, that marks really a wall which has been put up to separate one part of the basement from the front part of the basement, which has been referred to.
Okay, so my next question then, are you leasing? Are you leasing this from the person that owns the lease for the whole basement?
I believe so. Yes.
Okay, so we know who that person is then.
Yeah.
Which is helpful. The police have said, with regards to the basement, I've been privy to the lease that Mr. Toprak has for the premises. This includes the ground floor takeaway, seating area, the preparation at the back, and then a small section at the rear of the basement for toilets and storage.
Which is the area you can see on the plan, sir.
Yep. And PC Griggs, is there anything you want to come back on in regards to this basement? I mean, are you content? Because obviously the basement's been an issue in the past, and it keeps coming up all the time. And Hassan has been talking about the basement. We don't want to see any illegal activities in there at all. And PC Griggs, you did say in your submission that the basement wouldn't be used at all. So there was reference to the basement, even though it's not part of this. It's not part of this application, if that makes sense. But there was still reference to it.
Yes, I think the initial application was that the toilets were going to be in use, and there was going to be access down to them. And then we didn't. It's kind of changed slightly to whether it would be appropriate to use them or not, and would that be more trouble because they are downstairs in that rear basement part. But if they need to be used, then they need to be used, and they need to find a way around sorting that out and managing that appropriately. But the toilet bit at the back is, I say, in the basement is separate from whatever else is going on at the front of it. So that the bit that you can get to with the toilets is separate, and if they need to make that accessible and how to use it, that's what they need to do.
Yeah. But you did say, PC Griggs, in your submission, your verbal submission to this evening, that it takes a long time to find out who the leaseholder is. I mean, we must know who the leaseholder is because they're actually leasing the toilets from the leaseholder, so they know should know who that is.
If that's who the lease has been from, the lease with, then that helps us massively. Yes,
Yep.
I was unaware of that bit, but yeah, if that's who the lease has come from, then that's fine. I've got that information.
Yeah. Well, maybe you can go back to them and find that out. Councillor Root.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify really, is PC Griggs happy with the toilet, with the basement being used for toilets? I mean, because I had the impression that you didn't want people going down into the basement earlier on, and now it seems that you've changed your mind about that and you don't mind that now.
Well, initially I didn't, because I don't particularly, just because it's somewhere else they need to then cover and maintain, and it's another area that there could be issues. And if you're shutting that off, then you've got an area that's, toilets are notorious for causing issues and people being in them, or too many people being in them. So you, especially being out the way in the basement, it could potentially cause trouble. I think there's been more issues using it potentially than not using them, with 2 or 3 people going down there at a time, shutting themselves in there and bits and pieces like that. So that's why I was against them being used initially, and that's why I was talking to Mr. Sutherland and the applicant that we decided not to use them initially, was because it did seem that it would cause more trouble, especially with people that are drunk going down and causing issues down there, as opposed to.
Would you prefer that to be taken off?
I prefer them to be not used personally, just because I do think they would cause issues. But I do understand about drunk people needing to use toilets. So it's difficult how they'd be managed if there was, because they're downstairs and in the basement. If they were on the ground floor and there's a door accessible from the ground floor, that would make much more sense and be much easier. But because of the location of them, it does make it quite difficult to manage, and I think it could cause more trouble.
Yeah. Mr. Sutherland, do you want to come back on that point? Because I tend to agree with that position.
I think, so hopefully you can hear me. My screen went a little funny there. PC Griggs has probably set out the discussions that took place very well. I think we've gone to and fro in relation to using it. If the committee feel that it's appropriate to use them, they are there, and we will need to manage it. I accept everything PC Griggs is saying on that, and we will manage it. If the committee do not want us to use them, then we won't use them. I think the indication, the initial discussions we'd had with PC Griggs was that we weren't using the toilets for all the reasons she said.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. I mean, it's a very important point, PC Griggs, so thank you for that. Councillor Goldberg, now it's your opportunity to come in and ask a few questions if you wish.
Yeah, you touched on it, Chair, Councillor Smith earlier, and PC Griggs to confirm that she did change her mind about having that there could be no more, that there could be up to 15 people at one time seated. And if PC Griggs can just confirm that that's what she meant, is that what you put in the submissions evolved, and what we have in condition 7 is what you'd like to go with.
Yes, yeah, it just appeared to be much more controlled and easier to manage for them, with having those people inside rather than having queues outside and people all over the street. Well, it's easier to have them controlled and contained inside.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you for that, Councillor Goldberg. There's one point that C3 raised, which was, quite a number of points, but salient points in regards to how you manage waste and stuff like that. And also a delivery management plan, I think would be useful as to how you're going to sort out the takeaways and, the scooter riders turning up outside a bus stop on a red route and things like that. There are potential issues there with people going across the pavement, stopping in front of a bus stop, and there's lots of public safety kind of concerns there in that regard. But just going back to C3's point about the waste management and littering and things like that, we do have some environmental license conditions in respect to that. They're quite, here they are. they're quite typical, and they're sort of, you know, they're rolled out quite regularly to premises like yourself. Very standard stuff. You know, the licensee shall ensure that any contract for general and recyclable waste disposal shall be appropriate in size to the amount of waste produced by the business, etc. Adequate supply of waste receptacles provided, etc., etc. It's things like that. Would you be happy to accept those environmental conditions on your license as well? I mean, we can forward them, Sue, but could you find a version of these?
Yeah.
Well, the same one. I'm sure you've got it somewhere, and just pop it over to Mr. Sutherland to have a quick read of, because that would be useful, and I think that would help alleviate some of C3's concerns around the waste management. And now we'll move on to the delivery plan, the delivery management plan. Mr.
Councillor
Sutherland.
Smythe, sorry, can I just, if it helps you, I'm familiar with those conditions and there wouldn't be a problem with those conditions. I've had a quick chat with my client. There's no difficulty.
Fantastic. That would be good. So we could put those in with the conditions.
Yeah.
So on the delivery, do you want to note that, Amanda? On
Yeah.
the delivery management plan, do you want to just talk us through how you are going to manage people turning up late at night to your premises? How are you going to deal with that?
Sir, can you just give me a moment, if possible? Thank you.
Okay.
I
Do people
think
need a comfort break at this stage at all?
that
Anyone?
would certainly be helpful for me, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else?
Chair, can we just clarify where we are on the schedule? How much longer we need?
Oh, we've done 19 minutes in the discussion phase. So we're 4 minutes over.
Okay, that's fine.
So we're kind of, you
We're
know.
okay. Okay, that's fine. Okay, yeah. So you can have your comfort break. That's fine.
Yeah. I mean, do people want to? Councillor Root, are you?
That would
busy
give
with
Mr. Sutherland an opportunity to talk to his client. You see. So.
Maybe if we could take 2 minutes. How about that? Would that be enough?
I don't need one, so I'm cool about whatever you
Yeah.
want to do.
Okay. Well, let's go for a consensual. I personally need one.
Okay, I think 5 minutes, Chair, would be reasonable.
Okay. Well, let's have a 5-minute comfort break then.
Okay.
And we were sitting on 20 minutes before. We'll try and round up in 5 minutes when we get back. Yeah. How about that? Okay.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you.
Okay. So we'll take a comfort break for 5 minutes. Okay. Thank you. Okay, that's 5 minutes, 30 seconds.
But we can say 11 won't be that person.
Brilliant. So I think we've got everyone back on. C3, are you there as well? Didn't hear that.
Oh, sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, so you're there. Brilliant.
I'd like to raise my hand just at this point, if I may.
Yeah, of course. Off you go.
Oh well, I just they should talk about their plans for well, I suppose I could just say this really in terms of delivery. Big problem I have is for things with like two-stroke engines and diesel engines, which are very noisy in terms of nuisance. I do also appreciate that the public safety situation, which is absolutely right.
Yeah.
I can't work out which plan they're using. Are they using the one that came with the new applicant bundle?
Yes,
they
that's
are.
the one that's the one they're using. Did you see all that when he was going through it?
Yeah, I did, but that doesn't include the outdoor seating area in the licensable area.
No, it does. Oh, you mean the red line? You mean? I think you're right about that actually, because the outdoor seating area is there at the bottom.
Yeah. And
that's a good point. Can we just clarify that, Sue? Because that's a kind of, and maybe Mr. Sutherland, you want to address that as well.
So I can. It's not an intended area where customers would be seated outside after 11 o'clock. So it's not part of the. It is part of the premises, but it's not part of the area where I'm saying that we'll be supplying people and people will be eating outside.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. C3, does that answer your question a bit there?
Well, is it a place where people are going to be smoking, eating kebabs, etc.?
Yeah. Mr. Sutherland, do you want to answer that one?
Certainly, this is part of the area where the attendant managers and smokers, yes, may use that area if they're smoking. We're trying to keep it down, obviously keeping it to 4. So it is part of that area. So yeah.
No word on eating kebabs there then.
In relation to the eating, obviously we encourage up to 2:30 people to eat inside. We're managing that space between 2 and 2:30. After that time, then people are asked, if they're taking the food away, are asked to leave and not hang around at the entrance to the premises.
Yeah, well, never mind what they're asked. What's the
well, that's what's happening.
What's the condition?
You've got to be polite, because that's what's happening. Okay.
It's a very simple question. What are they supposed to do? Are they supposed to eat there? If they say, "Oh no, thank you, we'll just prefer to,"
if it's takeaway, then they take it away.
It's a very simple question. If they refuse to do that, is that a breach of your licensing conditions or not?
So far, in relation to how it's managed, the attendant is encouraging people to leave, and people are leaving. So that's what happens.
Okay.
Are they prohibited from eating kebabs there in the outdoor seating area or not?
I'm not sure whether I can make it any more clearer, or I'm not sure whether I'm confusing things.
No, that would be simple.
The area is not used after 11 o'clock for consumption of kebabs or food or drink.
Is that conditioned, Mr. Sutherland? Could we put a condition?
It isn't conditioned, so no. If that would help, it can be, but it isn't.
I think it would help. Could you draft some wording and send it over to Amanda, please?
So yes.
That would be helpful.
And on the issue of smokers, there's a condition about people off the premises. So you have smokers in this outdoor seating area, and then seems to be unlimited amount of smokers, and then you've got additional smokers, which are off the premises. Is that right?
No.
No, that's not how I read it, Mr.
No. There's four smokers maximum, and in order to ensure that we're not obstructing either the pavement outside or access to the premises. They're kept to the, if you look at the plan, so where the tables and chairs are, they're not there in the evening time.
Number,
that's the area that's used.
I can see condition 8. It says no
Yep.
more than 4 customers smoking outside of the premises. And you're saying that this outdoor smoking area is these 4 customers. Is that right?
That's correct.
But it's not clear, because outside of the premises would be outside of the premises, not outside of the licensable area.
Yeah, I think we need a little bit of clarification on that point, Mr. Sutherland. I think it is important that Mr. C3 is raising something important there. Just clarification where the area is exactly.
Sorry, it went very echoey. I'm very echoey on my side. Just bear with me. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. There's a little bit of echo on my end.
Sorry, I've got a real echo. I'm not sure what the problem is.
Try that now. That's better, I think.
That's better. That's certainly better at our end.
Okay.
In relation to condition 8,
it's just where it is really, and where that area is. I think we just need to identify where it is, and there's only 4 smokers there. And
if it would help, so I could mark on the plan. I could hatch the area on the plan so that the one at page 5, which I think was put up by earlier, then if I hatch the area which actually shows where there's 2 tables and 2 chairs, that would be where the smokers would be. So.
Yeah, and when you're doing that extra condition for Amanda about the prohibited from eating kebabs and drinking there after 11 o'clock, you could maybe include that in the smoking bit, maybe, because it's the same area. What I'm saying, isn't it?
So yeah.
Okay, Councillor Root, I saw your hand there.
Sorry. This might sound a bit, I suppose I'm trying to bring it back to first base a little bit here. We're talking about extending hours on this takeaway. At one point we were looking at having more people inside. That I'm worried about cumulative impact, basically, is what I'm concerned about, because we have to remember that this is a special area. And sorry, now I'm back. I think, that's possibly easier. I think it's C3 when he puts his microphone on. I think there's feedback then, but anyway, yeah, no, I just really want to voice some concern about cumulative impact. I can't see how the operation of this business, as it's been described to us this evening, is not going to increase cumulative impact. On the one hand, we're looking at more people out on the street having takeaways, taking them away in the middle of the night. On the other hand, we're looking at possibly having people inside and therefore using the toilets, which are downstairs. We haven't heard any kind of a plan about how that's really going to be sorted out. We haven't got an SIA on board. I'm just concerned that it's just not clearly enough thought through for me at this point to be able to support extending these hours, because I do think it's going to add to cumulative impact as things stand at the moment.
Yeah. Well, thank you for being open about that, Councillor Root. I mean, Mr. Sutherland, maybe there's some ways of sort of trying to tighten this up a little bit, like we have been doing with the environmental conditions that we've been discussing with the smokers in that outdoor space. We were on to the kind of delivery aspect, but let's kind of cut to the chase about the toilets. I mean, I don't think we should have the toilets in there, Councillor Root, as part of the premises, and I think that would sort of solve that issue. I mean, I know people need to go to the toilet at night, but people going up and down to that basement when it's a bit of an issue is potentially, I'd just rather see it not being used.
I think you then cause another problem, because then what you do is you're not allowing people to go to the toilet in a place where it's kind of, there's a facility to do it. Doesn't mean they're not going to go to the toilet. And as
yeah, but they might go to the toilet somewhere else.
Exactly. Well, where? I think that's the problem, isn't it? That's the cumulative impact I'm talking about.
Yeah. Okay, well, we can deliberate that one. I suppose in terms of the toilets, you have said already, Mr. Sutherland, that you would be happy if they weren't included. So if we came to that conclusion that you would be happy with that.
Sorry,
in
could you
relation
mind if
to
I
the-
ask a clarification question then? So how many people are we talking about having inside if without any toilet facility? Just to be
It's
really
So on
15.
condition 7, you've got 15. So it's a capacity of 15 inside.
okay. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
In
Um,
relation to
Yeah, sorry, that doesn't work. That doesn't read right, because it says, if you read the condition, it says like basically after 2:30. It says 15 patrons between 11 o'clock and 2:30. After that, it's the sky's the limit.
There is that potential. I think we do need to tighten that condition. I agree, C3, definitely. We need to think about that condition as well, Mr. Sutherland, condition 7, because I think we need that a bit tighter, because he's right. You in theory, once the tables and chairs are gone, they could just fill up with loads of people then, couldn't it?
well, I think so. I mean, certainly one could add that there will be no consumption of food or drink inside from 2:30.
Yeah, I think that would be useful. Amanda, did you get that? No food and drink inside from that time, yeah?
Yes, I'm writing it down.
Brilliant.
Yeah, but bang goes the littering then, really, isn't it? It's just toss away your your packaging on the streets and and urinate while you're at it.
Potentially. Potentially. Okay. Let's
So I think you
carry on.
also, sorry, sir, you asked me, I think, to come up with some wording in relation to the outside area and that food would not be consumed in that area. And I would suggest, sir, that from 2300 hours, no food or drink purchased on the premises will be consumed in the outside seating area marked on the plan. And that's the area marked on page 5 of the applicant's bundles.
Yep.
If that helps.
Yeah, I think PC Griggs, it'd be useful to bring PC Griggs in here. PC Griggs, in relation to that condition 7, food consumed between 23 and 2:30 hours. You did mention that actually you felt that people sitting inside is a bit safer than people taken away, kind of thing. I mean, maybe we should have, if we are going to do this, maybe people should be sitting inside, until it closes. What do you think?
Yes. Well, I think they're certainly more controllable sitting inside rather than wandering around.
Where
yes.
did that condition come from in terms of the timings?
I think the idea was to try and then, well, I don't know, to be fair, I'm not sure about the timings on that one, but I know they were trialling it, having people sitting in. I think from 2:30 presumably gives them time to finish serving the last few people, then clear down and get the tables and everything put away to close at 3:30 as proposed. But I'm sure they'd be happier having people in for longer if that was. I'm happier with people being in there because, as I said, they were controlled. So that does make more sense to me.
Okay, so that's kind of good to know.
So if it helps from the applicant's perspective, certainly we would in fact prefer people inside. We'd gone down the route of trying to manage the period after 2:30 so that there was a prompt 3:30 close, and that's really why we tried to phase it down in the way that we have.
Yeah.
The last orders are 3:15.
Yep. Because I think C3's point about after 2:30 people take away, dump their rubbish and whatever else is valid, and that would be adding to the cumulative impact. Councillor Root, you're right. The toilet thing we can discuss and try and address that one. I don't know how, but we can discuss that one. Just on the opening hours, I presume because in your original the hours that you were seeking, your opening hours were half an hour later than your license. Be good to tie the opening hours up to the end of the license, basically, in this case, because it's a because it's a sort of a takeaway, dine-in delivery operation. So therefore, on Fridays you would be shutting at 3:30. Yeah, your license would be until 3:30, but your opening hours would be until then as well. Yeah,
correct, sir. On the basis that we were operating with a, I suppose, a 15-minute last order consumption lead.
Yep. Yep. And on the attendant and the SIA aspect that Councillor Root was concerned about, any thoughts about that?
If the committee feel that it's appropriate that the person is SIA qualified, then obviously we will ensure that they are.
Would you be willing to sort of look at, I mean, Councillor Root, are you concerned more about Friday and Saturday, or are you concerned about Thursday, Friday and Saturday?
Well, Friday and Saturday in particular.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I think the issue about the SIA is not so much that it doesn't really matter whether or not the premises is serving alcohol or not. At those times of the day, late at night, you know, people have drunk such a lot anyway. It doesn't. It's just needs somebody who's really properly equipped to be able to deal with them and knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar enough with that part of Dalston on a Thursday night to know whether or not we need to think about it on a Thursday as well, really.
Yeah, I mean, Thursday they're shutting a bit earlier. Maybe PC Griggs come in on a Thursday night in Dalston. What's it like over there on that day, PC Griggs?
I think it's busy-ish, but not as busy. It's certainly Friday or Saturday. And
what's your feeling about this SIA attendant aspect?
I think the idea was initially that it was more of a kind of meet, greet, get people in seated and with their food or whatever and seated, rather than the sort of security aspect. But I can see where the merit would come from, it being an SIA person to assist with that a bit more. And obviously being a bit more equipped to deal with any issue should they arise. So I do see the merit in it. But it was initially the idea was to try and sort of get the queue moving and get people seated and out, so there wasn't a big queue forming, and to try and again that just chatting to people to sort of to remind them to keep quiet when they leave and where to put rubbish, and they're not going straight outside and dumping things and everything else. So that was kind of the bit more of that kind of meet and greet kind of role. But I do certainly take on board with Councillor Rout's idea that an SIA would probably be better equipped, certainly on the Friday and Saturday nights, to do that.
Yeah, just in terms of conflict resolution, crowd management, you know, first aid, all these kind of things. Was that from 11 o'clock? Was it 11 at night? Wasn't it until the end of? Mr. Sutherland, how does your client feel about, say, you know, Friday and Saturday nights? The police aren't as concerned with Thursday, and the hours are not as long. You know, how do you feel about having, you know, an SIA type person on there on a Friday and Saturday?
From experience so far, as I say, the thoughts are that SIA is not necessary. It is quite a substantial cost in relation to it. So if it's felt that SIA are important to the councillors to make sure that we're promoting the licensing objectives, then we will make sure that the person is SIA qualified.
I mean, maybe PC Griggs can come back in here just with a little bit of advice, PC Griggs, on the timings. I mean, I presume you pay these chaps by the hour, or these people by the hour, right?
Well, they are paid by the hour, but there's usually a minimum period of 4 hours.
Yeah, it's normally 4 hours.
Okay, so basically that would sort of cover it. Okay, so that's an irrelevant question then, PC Griggs, on that one. And then,
so could I ask that I appreciate that the difference between us may be half an hour or so, but could I ask that it be from 23:45 that we have an SIA that would allow us to go through till I think 3:45.
yeah, well, you shut at 3:30 though.
We do, sir, but I'm always conscious that the premises, and certainly what I'm saying to premises, is that they don't close the door when they're shut, that they do manage the area outside of their premises. And I would rather that there's a period where the door supervisors are around, even if they don't have anything to do, rather than they just disappear and there's no concern about what's going on outside.
Okay, great. So back to our original question, we got kind of a bit distracted when we came back on the call. We were talking about deliveries and how they were managed, and could we maybe consider, putting a delivery plan in place in conjunction maybe with on the advice of the police, possibly. How do you feel about that?
So we talked about deliveries. At the moment, the only deliveries take place up to 2300. There isn't a plan at the moment that would extend, but certainly, Sarah, there's a condition that there won't be deliveries until a delivery management plan is agreed with the police. Certainly, that wouldn't be a problem. So.
How does it currently work, Mr. Sutherland?
So yes, so before 2300. So if I could refer you to Appendix D, I'm not sure I've got a page number, but on Appendix D there is a plan of the area. There is little place to park vehicles on the main road, all the way down to the cinema, which is located at the corner of John Campbell Road. And generally speaking, that's where they're asked to wait, in fact, in John Campbell Road by the cinema. Bicycles would tend to go to the premises, and sometimes, depending on how busy it is, they would be asked to bring their bicycles into the porch area, or would leave their bicycle further down the road away from the bus stop.
Yeah, because obviously there are major considerations there. A, it's a bus stop, so there'll be people hanging around. But B, it's a pavement, so we don't want any cycling in the pavement from delivery drivers at all. And then at the John Campbell Road bit outside the cinema, that is a bit of pavement there. So are they actually on John Campbell Road itself?
On John Campbell Road, so yes, on the not on the pavement. Sorry, my description was not good.
So they'd have to go round onto, they'd have to go round, do a U-turn, wouldn't they, and come back up Crossway and then down.
Up Crossway, so yes.
Yeah. So anyway, all that stuff would need to be sorted out in the delivery management plan, and the police will help you do that. So I think a condition in that regard would be good as well. I mean, you can see what's happening here, Mr. Sutherland. We're just trying to tighten things up a little bit, for everyone's sake. I think, as far as I'm concerned, I have raised as much as I want to. So maybe we can move off the discussion phase now, and then move into closing remarks from everyone. And CJ, you will get your chance, and Hassan, you will get your chance as well. So let's just invite PC Griggs first to come in with your, I suppose, reflections kind of on where we're at, and maybe a bit of a summary, as to how you see things moving forward.
Yes, thank you very much, Chair. I think moving forward, I still feel that the use of the toilets is very difficult to manage, and prefer them not to be used at the moment. Unless a sensible plan can be put in place on how they're going to be managed. I would welcome the SIA certainly on the Friday and Saturday nights. That's very helpful and certainly useful. And I like the idea of them being that extra 15 minutes just to ensure that people have moved on and make sure everything's all right outside the premises as well, once they have stopped serving and closed. So I do welcome that as well. And the tightening up of the conditions, as we've mentioned, about the outside seating area and the inside seating area. Just making sure that even if we're saying after 2:30 there's nobody in there at all, or extending it so people can stay in there. but making it clear about whether the inside's used or not. I do prefer the inside being used as opposed to, because as I said before, it's controlled, especially on that Friday and Saturday night with an SIA on duty. That would make it much more controlled. To say with people in there, it's easier to keep an eye on them.
Yeah.
I think that's probably everything we've covered so far.
Yep, brilliant. Well, thank you very much for that. That was a great summary. I wish we'd record. Well, we are recording it actually, but it was a good summary. So thanks for that. Okay, so now I'm going to ask. I'll leave the applicant to the end, Mr. Sutherland. I'll leave you to the end. Okay. We'll bring in Hassan now, just for your final comments, Hassan.
Chair, while he was making a conversation after 23 hours that there was no eating inside or outside, there's no smoking outside by sitting down, as far as I understand. I've checked the previous pictures that's been sent to the licensing department, and in few of them I realized at 2 o'clock and 1 o'clock in the morning there's people sitting outside eating their food in the box and smoking.
Yep.
Plus inside the tables and chairs they were sitting inside.
Yep.
During them hours as well.
Yep. Yep.
They've been previously been sent as well.
Yeah, that will change with these conditions, Hassan. And if they don't, then you just inform the licensing department, and they'll come and do they'll come and do a recce on it. Fantastic. Was that it, Hassan? Yep.
Yes, thank you, sir.
Great, fantastic. And then C3. I've tried my best for you. How do you feel now?
I think that the special policy area means you don't have to accept any old cobbler's application like this one, Mr. Chairman.
Mm-hmm.
You can see this is a really very badly put together, ill thought through application with a few measly, ill-considered conditions which don't hold any water whatsoever. And it's pretty miserable that you have been abandoned by the responsible authorities of the borough, who should be doing this kind of work for you. Instead, you have taken it on yourself to completely fill it this application and give it any kind of substance, which it lacks.
Mm-hmm.
I point out that Councillor Rowe is the only person who's actually mentioned the cumulative impact. The applicant didn't mention it at all.
Yeah.
With two chances to make representations, made absolutely no case for it at all that this wouldn't add cumulative impact. There's all sorts of things I could mention here. The management plan for deliveries is useless and definitely doesn't suffice. I just bring up again the fact there's no prohibition on bringing alcohol onto the premises, which kind of would have thought would have been important. The whole thing between the police and who naturally are thinking about crime and the basement toilet, which is fair enough, but then of course we have the nuisance situation, and I don't think, as Councillor Rowe has said, there's no way you can square that circle. And the whole idea of letting people out onto the streets after these hours are just too late, and this just isn't thought through properly enough. You can tweak it, you will spend an awful lot of time tweaking it, but you're going to need some very serious time to tweak this to make it really serviceable. And even then, with the lack, with things like deliveries, it's still lacking. And all the applicant did was come up with some window dressing statements about how the area is not so bad. Well, that's just not good enough.
Yep.
And I'd just like to thank you and members for taking the time to deliberate this and discuss it without I'm sure what the applicant basically would have liked you not to have looked very closely at it, because looking closely at it, you can see, it's not worth the candle.
Yep. Okay. Thank you, C3, for that. It's constructive. Natalie.
Chair, I'd just like to bring your attention to submissions made by C1, who is unable to be here this evening.
Yep.
You could read that out for everyone to note, please.
Yeah, no, I did it already, actually. I'll read it again. C1's not in attendance, but has requested that it be noted that the objections submitted still stand in every respect. They believe that none of the measures proposed by the premises would mitigate against the ASB that results after patrons leave the premises. So that was that. Okay, Mr. Sutherland, it's your turn to come back and defend your position and try and convince us that you know, what C3 was saying is you know, addresses concerns, basically, I suppose is what I'm saying.
Thank you, Councillor. One of the key things that I would disagree wholeheartedly, and can't stress how much I disagree with C3, is that his suggestion that I would prefer you not to look closely at this application and obviously consider it in a very detailed way. What the applicant is looking to do is for the committee to look at the matter very closely and to do exactly what you have done so, which is to indicate areas where things need to be tightened, need to be focused, so that the premises can operate in a way which doesn't impact on the special policy area and does not have a negative impact on the licensing objectives. With the conditions as they have developed through the hearing, so I would encourage the committee to grant the application with the conditions as developed, allowing customers to remain inside the premises until close would be a preferred option for the applicant. As I say, we'd originally looked to exclude people on the basis of the discussions that we'd had with the police. It's intended that the last order for food would be at 3:15, and we are confident that with that on a Friday and Saturday, the customers would be away from the premises and the premises will be closed by 3:30. The other conditions which I would look to refer you to would be condition 9, of course, which deals with clearing and removing litter outside of the premises regularly throughout the evening and also at the close of business. Also that we have a host. If that's SIA qualified, then I would ask that be from 23:45 for the reasons that we've talked about, and that SIA host be present on the Fridays and Saturdays. Staff are trained in first aid and also in crime scene management, and also have received WAVE training, which I think is important in relation to the nighttime economy in making sure that there are safe spaces for vulnerable people to be able to attend and go to. And certainly that's something which I think is a good thing for this particular area. And finally, the surrender of the license on condition 12.
Yep.
With
Okay.
all of that, I commend the application to you.
Thank you very much. I've just got a few more points I'd like to raise. Sorry about this. Just clarification on the removal of non-standard hours, which the police requested. Is that okay with you?
Correct. Correct, sir.
Okay. And then we haven't spoken about, I don't want to get into it too much. I just want to know when your suppliers supply goods to you. I don't, ideally, I don't want that to be happening at sort of antisocial periods, like really early in the morning and really late at night.
All deliveries take place during the day.
During the day, from what time in the morning?
I believe from 8 o'clock.
10 until 12, 1.
Between 10 and 1, so between 10 a.m. and around 1 p.m. are the main.
Would you mind if we put a condition in around that?
If you were conditioning it, sir, could I ask for a wider window, so not before 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. And before 6 p.m.
8 to 6 p.m.
So between 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. would be the deliveries. Wider window simply because obviously breaching it would give rise to a criminal conviction. So I just want to make sure.
Amanda, did you get those times? Yeah, brilliant. And then I'm going to throw the big one at you now. Because I've got to try, because I'm trying to get a balanced decision here for everyone. So in terms of the hours on Friday and Saturday to 3:30, would you be willing to bring those down to 2:30? It's a straight question, and you can just give us a straight answer.
The straight answer would be no, sir. It just wouldn't be. It wouldn't be worthwhile with all the other things that the operation is doing.
Okay, well, thank you for that straight answer. Okay, so step 8 is now final clarifications. So members, do you have any points you'd like to raise, final points of clarification? I mean, we've got loads of information here to deliberate, but if you have any further points you'd like to clarify, then this is your opportunity.
No, I'm good. Thank you very much, and thanks to everybody for their patience. Really, quite a long discussion, but I think it was necessary to bottom certain things out. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so I think we've hit step 9. So thank you everyone for attending. PC Griggs, C3, Hassan, Mr. Sutherland, Amanda, Jim, Natalie, Mario, and the members, the councillors, Suba. Thanks to everyone, and we will go off and deliberate and come up with a decision. So I hope you've had a I think we've had a constructive discussion. So we've got all the information in front of us, and now we'll just go away and try and work it all out. So thank you very much, everyone, and have a lovely evening.
And you, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Nothing more pleasurable.